The Ordnance Survey National Grid Reference System is a system of geographic grid references used in Great Britain. Different from using latitude and longitude, the Ordnance Survey devised the National Grid Reference System, and it is heavily used in their survey data, and in maps based on those surveys. Grid references are also commonly quoted in other publications and data sources, such as guidebooks or government planning documents. A number of different systems exist that can provide grid references for locations within the British Isles. This article describes the system created solely for Great Britain and its outlying islands. The Irish Grid Reference System is a similar system, created by the Ordnance Survey of Ireland for the island of Ireland. The Universal Transverse Mercator Coordinate System is used to provide grid references for worldwide locations, and this is the system commonly used for the Channel Islands. European-wide agencies also use UTM when mapping locations, or may use the Military Grid Reference System, or variants thereof. General. The grid is based on the OSGB 36 datum, and was introduced after the retriangulation of 1936 to 1962. The area ellipsoid is a regional best fit for Britain. More modern mapping tends to use the GRS-80 ellipsoid used by the GPS. The maps adopt a transverse Mercator projection with an origin at 49 degrees north, 2 degrees west. Over the area ellipsoid, a straight-line grid, the national grid, is placed with a new false origin, creating a 700 km by 1,300 km grid. This false origin is located southwest of the Isles of Scilly. The distortion created between the OS grid and the projection is counted by a scale factor in the longitude to create two lines of longitude with 0 distortion rather than 1. Grid north and true north are only aligned on the 400 km easting of the grid, which is 2 degrees west and approx. 2 degrees 0 minutes 5 seconds west. OSGB 36 was also used by Admiralty nautical charts until 2000, after which WGS 84 has been used. A geodetic transformation between OSGB 36 and other terrestrial reference systems can become quite tedious if attempted manually. The most common transformation is called the Helmert datum transformation, which results in a typical 7 meters error from true. The definitive transformation from ETRS 89 that is published by the OSGB is called the National Grid Transformation OSTN02. This models the detailed distortions in the 1936 to 1962 retriangulation, and achieves backwards compatibility in grid coordinates to sub-meter accuracy. Datum shift between OSGB 36 and WGS 84. The difference between the coordinates on different datums varies from place to place. The longitude and latitude positions on OSGB 36 are the same as for WGS 84 at a point in the Atlantic Ocean well to the west of Great Britain. In Cornwall, the WGS 84 longitude lines are about 70 meters east of their OSGB 36 equivalents. This value rising gradually to about 120 meters east on the east coast of East Anglia. The WGS 84 latitude lines are about 70 meters south of the OSGB 36 lines in South Cornwall, the difference diminishing to 0 in the Scottish borders, and then increasing to about 50 meters north on the north coast of Scotland. The smallest datum shift is on the west coast of Scotland and the greatest in Kent. But Great Britain has not shrunk by 100 plus meters. A point near Land's End now computes to be 27.6 meters closer to a point near Duncansby Head than it did under OSGB 36. Datum shift between OSGB 36 and ED 50. These two datums are not really both in general use in any one place, but for a point in the English Channel halfway between Dover and Calais. The ED 50 longitude lines are about 20 meters east of the OSGB 36 equivalents, and the ED 50 latitude lines are about 150 meters south of the OSGB 36 ones. Grid letters. For the first letter, the grid is divided into squares of size 500 km by 500 km, outlined in dark gray on the map to the right. There are 4 of these which contain significant land area within Great Britain: S, T, N and H. The O square contains a tiny area of North Yorkshire, almost all of which lies below mean high tide. For the second letter, each 500 km square is subdivided into 25 squares of size 100 km by 100 km, each with a letter code from A to Z, starting with A in the northwest corner to Z in the southeast corner. These squares are outlined in light grey on the map, with those containing land lettered. The central meridian is shown in red. It would be possible to extend the grid system over Ireland, completing the S and N squares and introducing what would become the R and M squares. However, there is no motion for this at the moment, and the accuracy of the projection would start to diminish in the west of Ireland, more than 8 degrees from the central meridian. Theoretically, the system extends far over the Atlantic Ocean and well into Western Europe, with square AA near Iceland and square ZZ in northern Italy. In fact, Rockall is mapped by the Ordnance Survey, but is usually shown as an inset without grid lines on a mainland sheet. However, the grid can be extended to put Rockall in grid square MC as shown in this 1 to 50,000 mock-up. Grid digits. Within each square, eastings and northings from the origin of the square are given numerically. For example, NH0325 means her 1 km square whose southwest corner is 3 km east and 25 km north from the southwest corner of square NH. A location can be indicated to varying resolutions numerically, usually from 2 digits in each coordinate through to 5. In each case, the first half of the digits is for the first coordinate and the second half for the other. The most common usage is the 6-figure grid reference, employing 3 digits in each coordinate to determine a 100 meters square. For example, the grid reference of the 100 meters square containing the summit of Ben Nevis is NN 166,712. NN has an easting of 200 km and northing of 700 km, so the OSGB 36 national grid location for Ben Nevis is at 216,600, 771,200. All numeric grid references. Grid references may also be quoted as a pair of numbers. Eastings then northings in meters, measured from the southwest corner of the SV square. Note that 14 digits may be required for locations in Orkney and further north. For example, the grid reference for Salambo Oil Terminal in the Shetland Islands may be given as HU3-96753 or 439,668, 1,175,316. Another, distinct, form of all-numeric grid reference is an abbreviated alphanumeric reference where the letters are simply omitted, e.g., 166,712 for the summit of Ben Nevis. Unlike the numeric references described above, this abbreviated grid reference is incomplete. It gives the location relative to an OS 100 times 100 km square, but does not specify which square. It is often used informally when the context identifies the OS 2-letter square. If working with more than one Land Ranger sheet, this may also be given as 41,166,712. Alternatively, sometimes numbers instead of the 2-letter combinations are used for the 100 times 100 km squares. The numbering follows a grid index where the tens denote the progress from west to east and the units from south to north. In the north of Scotland, the numbering is modified. The 100 km square to the north of 39 is numbered N30, the square to the north of 49 is N40, etc. Summary parameters of the coordinate system. Datum, OSGB 36 map projection, transverse Mercator projection using Redfern series true origin. 49 degrees north, 2 degrees west. False origin, 400 km west, 100 km north of true origin. Scale factor, 0.99960127117 plus EPSG code, EPSG, 27700. Ellipsoid, area 1830. Semi-major axis A, 6,377,563.396 meters. Semi-minor axis B, 6,356,256.909 meters. Flattening,